No, I haven't lost my marbles. And yes, you are right. Estrogen is in decline. But for most women in perimenopause, they will struggle with estrogen dominance. Let me explain. As we enter perimenopause, progesterone is the first hormone to fall, and it falls rapidly. And it leaves us in a state where we have too much estrogen to progesterone. And as we move through perimenopause, estrogen begins to fluctuate from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. And even in those low states, we can still have too much estrogen relative to progesterone. So that is what I'm talking about when I talk about estrogen dominance in perimenopause. It's the amount of estrogen relative to progesterone. And as a side note, some people will say it's not estrogen dominance, it's progesterone deficiency. Tomato, it's exactly the same thing. But yes, it does start with declining progesterone levels, and I have in fact just finished a whole series on low progesterone in perimenopause and how you can increase it naturally. I will link to the playlist up above here. Do check that out next if you haven't done so already. So estrogen, of course, is one of our main sex hormones alongside progesterone, and it comes in three main forms: estrone, estradiol, and estriol. Estrone, or E1, is the main estrogen made postmenopausally. Estradiol, or E2, is the main estrogen made during the reproductive years, and estriol, or E3, is the main estrogen made during pregnancy. So how would you know if you're in an estrogen dominant state? Signs and symptoms are always the best place to start, but if you were interested in testing, I would always recommend a Dutch test, a Dutch hormone panel. This is a test I run with all my clients in my Haywire Hormone Fix program. And with the Dutch, what I'm looking at is the individual levels of E1, E2, E3, and their metabolites to see how well estrogen is being used and cleared from the body, and the total level of estrogen, and that total in relation to progesterone. However, we are more than just numbers on a test, so I'd also be looking at symptoms, and I would be hearing the client's history. Estrogen is our high energy growth hormone, so in terms of symptoms, they're usually symptoms of excess. For example, PMS with anger, with rage, with extreme mood swings, heavy flooding periods, maybe fibroids and cysts, painful periods including endometriosis, clotted periods, breast tenderness, lumpy breasts, fibrocystic breasts, fluid retention, bloating, acne, and histamine intolerance. So estrogen stimulates mast cells to make more histamine, and it downregulates the enzyme DAO, which is required to clear histamine. So we see a lot of histamine intolerance, allergies, that sort of thing when we have an estrogen dominant state as well. And in terms of client history, the sort of things that I'm looking for is a history of pill usage or any other hormonal contraception or synthetic hormones in any form, including IVF, things like that. I'm looking at gut dysbiosis, liver, gallbladder issues, diets that were high in sugar, low in fiber, constipation, exposure to toxins and xenoestrogens, and of course emotional stress or any disturbance on the mental emotional field. We always, when it comes to hormones, have to be taking that holistic approach. And in that regard, thinking holistically, we're in this estrogen dominant state because of low progesterone levels, so I'd be looking for symptoms of low progesterone, for example, anxiety, low mood, irregular periods, spotting between periods, sleep issues, headaches, and migraines. So if you're thinking this sounds like me, what can I do? The first thing to do is hit that subscribe button, because this is the first video in a whole series on estrogen dominance. We're going to be looking at foods to help clear estrogen, as well as supplements, natural remedies, herbs, homeopathic remedies. And the final video will be, I haven't decided on the name yet, other things that could be causing estrogen dominance that you might not be thinking about. Things like testosterone levels, copper toxicity, and the connection between toxins, weight, and estrogen. But in the meantime, the most important organs that you need to be showering with love are your gut, liver, and bowel. So in a hormonally healthy body, we naturally produce excess estrogen, and the body knows what to do with it. It metabolizes it in the gut, detoxes it in the liver, and we eliminate it via the bowel. If any of these organs are sluggish, if they're not fed properly, they don't have the right nutrients to do their job, then excess estrogen is reabsorbed back into the system. However, when you consider that alongside the fact that most women are exposed daily to toxic chemicals that mimic estrogen, we're exposed to estrogen in our tap water and conventional meat and dairy, to name but a few issues, alongside the fact that most of our diets are not high enough in fiber and potentially a little bit too high in sugar. You can see that for most, these organs are going to be overly taxed and not able to do their job properly. So the more you can show them love with the right foods, the right nutrients, some supplements where required, the happier those organs will be, the more able they will be able to do their job, and the less hormonal symptoms you will have. So that looks like pre and probiotic foods, lots of fibrous vegetables, bitter leafy greens, and avoiding things like refined carbohydrates, sugar, tap water, and conventional meat and dairy. It can also mean some liver-loving herbs like milk thistle and some phytoestrogen foods that help to clear away the dirty estrogens and help to balance our natural estrogen levels. And this is exactly what I'm going to go through in the next video. Best foods to eat for estrogen dominance in perimenopause. So make sure you are subscribed.